Hello, Sam Brenner. Welcome to the Doing CX Right show.
Hey, Stacy, how's it going?
Awesome, because you are here. And when my audience listens to who you are and why I'm super excited, they're going to understand. But let's start with who are you? What do you do professionally?
Sure, jumping right in. So I'm the founder and CEO of a company called CRB Workforce. Primarily, we focus on staffing and recruiting, but we have a few service lines, one of which is a consulting division where we build project-based teams for enterprises or startups, building out proof of concepts or other general technology products. And I specifically day to day end up doing a lot of strategy and execution type work.
Mm. And I'll let the audience know up front that Sam Brenner is also my brother.
The best brother.
I'm not sure that Ben is going to appreciate that. But yes, Sam is my brother, and that's why I am extra excited today. So, Sam, with what you do professionally, why? Why did you get into this field? And I do want to preface that you left a very comfortable job in corporate at Cushman & Wakefield.
That's right. Yeah. I worked about 7 years at Cushman & Wakefield and then made the decision to leave. I went to Barcelona and traveled Europe with my current wife. But why did I get into recruiting initially? It really was all about money. Money was my motivation. It was kind of the litmus test to this industry when we moved back stateside, and I determined what am I going to do next? It was, can I make money in that industry? And I recognized that in recruiting you can. So ultimately recruiting is sales, and I wanted to make sure that my motivation being money and building out, my life, that was going to be achievable. And so that's kind of how it started. But, now fast forward, I don't know, 10, 11 years, why did I open up CRB? Why am I doing what I'm doing? The money's good. Although I think I make far less being an owner than a producer, but for me, it's always been about effecting positive change in people's lives, changing the recruiting industry. There tends to be a negative connotation with the recruiting industry. And so it's been exciting kind of repaving that path. And then, the industry also deals with a lot of entry level or junior candidates kind of breaking into their career, their path. And so I've always found it really fulfilling helping them kind of being that, first boss and showing them, this is what it should be. You're going to come across bad bosses, bad companies, but this is what it should be. And I never expect anyone to stay with us forever. But, the why do I keep doing it is really about helping people achieve their goals, finding their paths.
I love that.
Yeah.
So what's a fun fact that people might not know about you?
I wonder if my team would say anything is fun about me. Let's see. Okay, this is good. I'm an introvert.
No way.
Yeah, right? Even you didn't know. Yeah, I'm a hardcore introvert. At the end of the day, I'm exhausted. I can turn the charm on, I can be extroverted, but at my core, I probably should have been an engineer. Like if I never have to talk to anybody ever, I'm the most fulfilled. I always ask my wife, Laura, I always ask her if I can have like the weekend. Like I need to recharge after like 4 or 5 months of doing stuff and going places. I need that alone time. I need to recharge. And I found out maybe 10 years ago that I'm a classic introvert.
That is really interesting. We're going to have to talk about that after the show.
Yeah, exactly.
So, all right, let's get into the meat here. we're going through this great reflection or resignation. There's so many different terms for it. And candidates have a lot of options. So, first of all, what is your perspective? Why are people leaving jobs at a more rapid rate than we've ever seen?
Yeah, that's a good point, good question. I think if I think hard about it, there's a handful of reasons. I think there's probably three core reasons, one being culture, two being this remote work dynamic, but I think probably the primary one is money. And a lot of people may not be open enough to say that, but I think it's the reality. And I think what you're seeing is candidates can stay at their current company. They might love the product, they might love their boss, but if they stay there, they'll see anywhere from a 2 to 5% annual raise. And right now in the industry, we're seeing 10 to 20% salary increases when they change jobs. And so I think if employees, if candidates are being responsible to themselves, to their family, it behooves them to take interviews to see what their market worth is. And so I think that the money piece is big. That's really what's driving them to the market, to taking the interview. And then, ultimately what pushes them across is the culture piece. It's a better environment. There's better perks. And then there's this remote aspect that we didn't have to deal with before, but companies that are demanding employees to return to office, for a lot of people is a big turnoff. I think
Mm.
I think 5 years from now, I think you'll see people wanting to go back into the office. But that toxic culture or push to return to the office will be that extra push for them to actually accept the role when they're facing, I stay here and hope I get a 2 to 5% raise, or I leave and I guarantee myself a 10, 20% increase. And I
Mm.
think companies really should start thinking about, not just improving culture or creating remote environments, but also about, really reflecting on their current salary bands and preemptively giving people big raises and retaining people. I think that's a big opportunity area for a lot of employers is retention. They can go out and bring in all these new talented people at 10 to 20% higher than their existing workforce. But they have to be aware that they need to retain.
I have some friends that are so unhappy where they are. And I said to them, listen, go professionally date.
Yeah. Yeah.
Try it on for size, go professionally date. You still have your partner, but you know what? You deserve to be happy. And it's also a slow process. So if you're even thinking about it, begin your journey, have the courage to own your happiness,
Yeah.
professionally date.
Yeah, look, my wife, Lau works for Netflix, and I've adopted this philosophy, but it's Netflix's philosophy that she told me, and they encourage her to interview. Um,
Wow.
they say go out, interview, and if there's something you love, go for it. But if there's something we need to do to make sure you're happy, let us know. And so I say it to my people all the time. Like, look, I don't get as many calls anymore in my role, me personally. But when I was producing, I got calls all the time, and I took all of them. And it's important, make the connection, talk to people, understand your worth, and always be willing to do what's right for you, because the company will do what's right for them.
I agree. At the same time, this is a tremendous opportunity to focus on internal retention because it
100%.
it doesn't have to be this way. And I just made a shift to a new company, and I loved the people I used to work for, and that made leaving very hard. At the same time, I have a new family.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's natural, I mean, people don't stay at the same company anymore. It's a new breed of workforce, and people want that technology and products are changing so fast, and people want to work with different things, and you have to change jobs to expand.
Yes. At the same time, I'm going to say now that I'm in a very important role at my new company, I am very focused on, and I always was, about employee and agent staff retention and their happiness and their engagement. So it's a mix between go professionally date at the same time with the other hat I have on. No, no, no. Let's talk.
Yeah,
Let me know what matters to you. Let's figure this out.
exactly. Yeah. Yeah. Well, if they don't have those convos, if you're not having the conversations with them, they're having it with someone else. So you're right.
Yes.
I mean, have them and be open, I tell all my clients, just be open to listening.
Yeah.
That's the key.
So what are the roles you're finding, or what's the trend? What's the big
Yeah.
opportunities now?
Well, we tend to see big opportunities when there's low supply of a candidate pool, and I think number one and number two are engineering and product. So everyone, we're obviously in the digital age, and people are building new apps and products, and the first part is, what product are we building? What is it going to look like? What's the roadmap? And really smart business oriented product folks are in a huge demand. And so once those people, because a lot of the really smartest people in that space go build their own product, right? And so the ones that are doing the execution for other companies are tough to find. And so I'd say that's kind of number one. And really 1.0 is engineering, the people building the product. Certainly there's data science that we're seeing a huge trend in understanding data science and AI. But at the core, it's engineering. We really didn't do a good job as I'd say a country, because I think a lot of other countries have done a really good job at developing engineers over the past 20 years. I think the US, I think we've got a massive undersupply of good quality computer engineers. And so we're seeing this rush to computer science programs right now, and especially in the diversity realm, the whole world for that matter has not done a good job at building strong, diverse engineering talent. But we're seeing that rush right now, which is awesome. But companies aren't going to be willing to take chances on those candidates for the next 5 years. So that I think will continue to be an undersupply and over demand engineering and product.
Now, customer experience is what I'm all about and what I'm on a mission to make every company absolutely understand it, embrace it, because it's a competitive advantage. So, my question is, as you are filling these spots that happen to be a lot of product and engineering, how do you make sure that you're hiring really customer centric talent?
Yeah, it's something that we think about quite a bit. For us, there's a handful of values that we live by, but for us, I think the number one when we think about how do we help our customers, and customers for us are both candidates and clients hiring, and so for us we have this mantra of it's all about the match, and that literally is what guides us. Is it a match? Find the match. So when we talk to customers, we don't take all business. We say no to quite a bit. And primarily is it a match? And are we going to be the best agency? Does a client want high volume, low touch from us? That's not for us. We're high touch, low volume. And same thing for the candidates. What candidates do we work with? Do they want to work with us? And so when we start with that and we start looking for the ultimate match of candidate matching with client, which is how we make money, that's what we think about. Is it a match? Are we having to sell the job to the candidate? Are we having to sell the client to the candidate? If we find ourselves doing that, then we're varying from this concept of, is it a match? And we're just trying to force things together. And so I think if we're looking at customer experience and we're finding good matches, then I think everyone walks away with like, I can't believe how great this is. The result is exactly what we wanted. They believe in us, or the company believes in me. And so I think that's how we stay focused on the customers, making sure that we don't sell, that we match.
Mm, I like
Yeah.
the match scenario, and that makes a lot of sense. Now, in order to match, you have to ask the right questions.
Yeah.
What are some best practices to make sure that you're really getting high quality, customer centric talent that's going to stay for the long term with a highest probability? What do you ask?
It's tough. I mean, a lot of it is not necessarily what you ask. It's really a lot of, are they vibing with the client? Do they used the client's product? Things like that. You start to get that feeling. But I think a good question that we've asked in trying to determine, are they a match? Are they going to be customer centric? Is, let's say I'm talking to a candidate right now. What I would ask them is, let's say you're 6 months into the role and executive staff says, hey, we need you to switch gears and work on something completely different than you signed up for, primarily because we're hearing from the customer that we need this product feature. What would your reaction be? And I think candidates that are customer centric will typically say, that sounds great. Let's do it. I'm excited to try something new, XYZ. Ones that I think won't be customer centric will, resist. They'll say, well, how much more money am I going to get? Or something that's not, sounds great.
Hmm. I often will test for things that are very clear to CX. So, for example, tell me about how have you measured net promoter score or customer satisfaction, either you or the people that you work with. Tell me about that. Give me an example. And I know right away if they don't even know what the heck I'm talking about.
Yeah. We probably need to schedule another time to where you can teach me the ins and outs. We place a lot of CX folks, but internally within the company, we send surveys out after, and we generally get tens. I think we've had 1 9, but it's so far above my head understanding NPS and and implementing it the right way. So I probably need to call you after.
Absolutely. But it is important because you know what? Your clients, I bet, are measuring who you're placing for. They're measuring their customers' level of satisfaction, level of effort in doing business with them. So, yeah, you have to know and ask the right questions so you position the right people too.
Totally.
So, going back to work from home is a hot topic. You brought up before something very interesting that there is a trend that more people are going remote now, but in 5 years, it could change again. I personally believe that employee retention and happiness is around giving choice. When there's a physical location to go to, it's a possibility. I like hybrid. I like choice to feel empowered. What do you see, at least for now, is the trend, the preference of hybrid versus work from home? And also, do you find that keeping employees engaged when they're remote? I think your team is remote.
Right. Yeah.
What's your advice on that?
Um, well, yeah, I mean, in general, the trend, I do see, the ability to attract majority of the best talent is going to be if you have a remote environment. I think you're seeing companies be able to tap some of these, small markets. We placed a guy a couple months ago who lives in, this tiny town in West Virginia, and he's just an insanely talented engineer. That guy never works for a big company that has an on-site culture, historically. Now you're seeing this access to new talent. And I think, eventually people are going to grow tired of not having that interaction. Or I should probably say extroverts. I personally don't think I'll ever want to go into an office again. But I think a large majority, sales, for example, when we have to train new people, it's difficult, right? Junior entry level people, it's really difficult to train them remotely. Not because we don't have the tools to do it, but because a lot of that learning comes from being right next to the senior person or hearing that cold call that they make. And so, I think the people that will always want to be remote are the people that have proven themselves, that don't need hand holding, that, that can get their work done. And the people that are going to suffer, and why I think we'll see this movement back to offices or hybrid or certain types of roles go back, because for these, entry level folks. I think a lot of these kids graduating from college right now are a little lost. And I think it's primarily because they don't have anyone showing them the ropes. They don't have anyone holding them accountable to when they're in the office or to when they leave. And not that someone needs to be there with a stick, like, hey, get here on time. Just that, okay, this is what you do, right? We only know how to walk because as babies, we watch our parents walk all the time. And it's the same thing with career. We only know what the right thing to do is because people are telling us, or we're watching, or we're making the decision what's right. This person is doing well and they're doing these things. This person's not doing well and they're just doing these things. And you don't get that remotely.
Mm-hmm.
So I think from a trend, that's kind of what I think will happen. But how do I keep people engaged and motivated through remote work? I think you have to keep people together. You can't lose that personal touch. So, I've tried to do a lot of team building, team bonding things. A lot of it's been on Zoom, but we're doing more get-togethers where people fly in and see each other. I give them unlimited PTO, and I encourage them to take it. Literally, they never have to tell me why. It's just automatic. They put it in, gets approved. Yeah, I empower them to work their schedule that they want. And as long as they're hitting their goals, doesn't matter to me. I don't need to micromanage them. But I think at the end of the day, it's a moving target. And in 6 months, they might say, they want something different. And, we'll listen to the feedback. And if it makes sense, we'll give it to them. And I think that's the key of being remote, is you can't build a culture around the office and the free snacks and the ping pong table. And you have to build a culture based on what they're asking for at the time.
Very well said. As we're getting to the end here, my last questions for you. First of all, leadership. We know that's also why people stay or leave. What is the best leadership advice you've ever been given or have told others?
Interesting. So I definitely won't say I've given great leadership advice. Some might say I have, but I won't toot my horn. I don't know if I have anything to say. So there's two things I think that I preach all the time. And both of these things were told to me. So the first one, John Cushman, I guess he was a founder of Cushman and Wakefield. He said, the harder you work, the luckier you get. And that's stuck with me my entire career. And I tell that to every single person that works for me. The harder you work, the luckier you will get. And then the second was Ed Breen. He's the former CEO of Tyco Corp, Fortune 10 level CEO. And I had the opportunity to talk to him. And he told me the best way to build trust with somebody is to tell them you're going to do something and do it. And so I preach that too. And those two things, I mean, literally, I think if my team listens to this, they're going to be like, wow, I'm disappointed that those two things didn't come from you, because that's all you talk about.
First of all, trust is everything. And delivering on the promise is what you're saying. That is literally why customers stay or leave. So you're right. It applies internally and externally as well. My question about lucky, the harder you work, lucky, isn't it also right place, right time?
Oh, I mean, it's the same one and the same thing, right? If you're not working hard, if you're not getting the at bats, then you won't be in the right place.
Yeah.
I'm a big sports guy, and so I always tell people, look, a great batting average for a professional MLB player is like 300. And what that means is 7 out of 10 times they strike out, or they get out. And so you just have to keep getting in the batter's box. You have to keep trying. You have to keep working hard, and you'll get lucky. And you only need 3 times, as a batter, 3 out of 10 times to get lucky and hit a home run or get on base, and you're a success. So, it doesn't have to be every time, and you'll get knocked down, and you just have to get lucky and be in the right place at the right time. And you do that by working hard.
Agree. If there were many CEOs and entrepreneurs, leaders in my room right now, what's the one takeaway? What do you want them to know about recruitment and hiring the right people?
The obvious thing is hire CRB. That's the simple thing. If any CEO's listening, just sign us up. We'll take care of you.
Right. The second thing.
Yeah. As I mentioned earlier, you've got this undersupply of talent. And I don't think it's exclusive to, just engineering and product. I think generally it's the same and across different industries. And so I think, what leaders should be thinking is, focusing more on potential. As we continue to be squeezed for good talent, I think we need to start developing our young people better and shifting away from, looking for people that are doing the job, and start looking at people that can do the job. And I think if we start doing that, we'll set ourselves up for, another really good 60, 70 years of talented people.
Well, my 20-year-old, I can't even call them kids, but I relate to what you're saying because they're so talented. So I agree on that too. And finally, if you could go back to your younger self, 20-year-old Sam, based on what you know now that you didn't know then, what would you say to you?
20-year-old Sam, let's see. Don't spend your money on limos and bottle service. Invest in Bitcoin. Shorten my memory. That's a big one. I tell people all the time, have a very short memory, and probably read more books. Reading books has been game changing for me. And I only started that about, 6, 7 years ago.
Love that. And it's never too late.
Never too late. Never too late. Bitcoin too.
Yeah, exactly. Well, thank you, Sam, so much for being here. And I'm going to put your website and LinkedIn in the show notes so people can find you. And thank you for being here again.
Yeah, thanks for having me. This was fun.
Yes.